Awesome. And we'll get started. Okay, so bear with me one moment. I just have to get it on the right screen because we do have multiple screens here. There we go. Okay, so we are so excited in the Study Abroad office to announce the new scholarship that has received funding support from the Chancellor that we're calling FirstGen Flames Abroad. And so the info session today is to talk to you all about this new scholarship and give you some tips in case you're a student who's interested in applying. We also did invite faculty and staff, so if we have any of you all here, we're happy to have you here so you can learn more to invite students you work with to apply as well. So here's our agenda for today. I did want to start off by giving some background about the genesis of the scholarship. Then we'll dive into some specifics about what the funding is and for what programs students can use it for. We'll talk about who's eligible. And then of course, we'll provide an overview of the application process and some tips. And then I'm going to have just a short overview of the kinds of programs that you can use the scholarship for. And we'll end by talking about other funding opportunities and then have time for questions and answers. Okay, so to help set the stage for why this scholarship is so important and exciting for UIC, I thought it would be helpful to share with you just some interesting data about US study abroad participation. And so what you see on the screen are some key data points from the Institute of International Education, which is a part of the US Department of State, who helps track student mobility. And one thing that I was most surprised to learn when I got into this field is how few US students actually have a study abroad experience. You see here that only 1 out of 10 US undergraduates actually have the opportunity to study abroad. And we know there are many challenges such as cost and other things that relate to that. Over here on this chart, you see the racial and ethnic breakdown of students who study abroad. Perhaps not surprisingly, the preponderance of students who study abroad are Caucasian. And so in recent years, there has been a lot of interest in the field of study abroad to figure out how we can support underrepresented students in having study abroad experiences, because we know that there are many benefits that can come from a study abroad experience, such as helping you be more attractive to future employers or graduate schools, but also giving you personal and academic benefits, such as increased self-confidence, giving you new perspectives to think about what it is you're studying, and so forth. So this scholarship is really rooted in this idea of wanting to give all students the opportunity to pursue a study abroad experience. So I mentioned that I'm new to UIC. Prior to coming to UIC, I worked at Arizona State University, which you might know is the largest university in the US. And while I was there, I also pursued my doctorate degree. And so part of my research actually focused on how we can support first generation college students in study abroad, because students who are the first in their families to go to college are another underrepresented group in study abroad. And so as I was doing my research, we learned 4 main challenges or concerns that these students often have. And so I just want to share those with you. So the first is sometimes these students lack an awareness of the opportunities and the benefits of study abroad. So because you might be the first in your family to go to college, that means your parents probably didn't have the opportunity to study abroad. So you just might not know, one, of how to get started, or even, why you might want to consider investing in an opportunity like this. So part of this program is to help change that narrative. Additionally, we know that oftentimes students have concerns that if they study abroad, it might delay their graduation. And of course, that's not true. All of our programs help students earn UIC credit. So we want to make sure we're helping you understand that that myth is not true, and we can find you a good program that keeps you on track. Next, we also know that many first generation college students maintain really strong relationships with their parents and families, which is wonderful and awesome, and we want to support that. But that also means that sometimes it can be difficult for a student to know how to bring up the topic of studying abroad and help position it as a worthwhile experience. And so part of this program will also aim to give students the communication tools they need to be able to talk with their loved ones about their decision to study abroad. And finally, I think this goes for most students, but probably especially for first generation students, is that we all benefit from support and encouragement from peers and mentors. So again, if we have any faculty and staff on this session, thank you, because a lot of these students will need your encouragement and your support to work on their scholarship applications. So these were just some of the things that we saw from the research on supporting FirstGen students. And then next, I wanted to share one of the main findings that came from my research. I approached the project initially with this idea of first generation college students have challenges. They might be lacking certain cultural capital to know how to study abroad, which is really kind of a deficit model when you think about it. But in actuality, those of us who are first generation college students, we bring so many skills and strengths to any of our endeavors. And so the students that I worked with on this program that we launched at ASU actually coined this term, the theory of first generation strength. And so on the screen, you see a definition here, but just to call out the main points. The students that I worked with at ASU realized that they brought certain strengths to the experience that they believed to be unique to first generation college students. And so that's to say, while they may not have always known the questions to ask or the solutions to problems that occur while they're abroad, they knew that they could depend on themselves to work through most situations. And so upon entering the study abroad experience, students felt confident that they would manage to work through the unknown. For me, this was a really powerful theory that these students I had the pleasure of working with came out with, because it meant that first generation college students actually are really excellent candidates to have a study abroad experience. If you think about it, think about everything you've had to do just to get to the point where you're actually at UIC and being able to take classes and benefit from a college career. Likely you had to overcome many obstacles and figure out things on your own. That means that you probably have a lot of the skills that will help you be successful on a study abroad program. And so just to conceptualize this from a student's perspective, I included a quote from one of the students I got to work with at ASU. His name was Cody. And that's his picture you see right here. He's at the Great Wall of China with some friends he met on his study abroad program. I love bringing up Cody because he grew up in a small suburb of Phoenix, Arizona called Mesa, where he hadn't even traveled to the Grand Canyon. And then he got this scholarship at ASU, and he decided to do an internship program all the way in Beijing, China. So I'd never been abroad and chose Beijing to be his first place to go. And as you can see from his quote, it was a truly transformative experience. And so he kind of spoke about this idea of first generation strength by saying, I think with the problem solving, a lot of it stems from independence, and from independence stems self-reliance. Like you have to take it into your own hands and be like, I'm at this by myself. I have resources, but I have to navigate this by myself for my own self-confidence and self-development. And he said, so through all of that and through this experience, we actually had an advantage going into studying abroad because we're used to self-reliance and being able to adapt to situations that call for like a judgment call. So again, I think sometimes it's nice to hear from fellow students, and I hope that shows you that all of you who are first-gen students who've made it this far are coming to study abroad already set to be successful. So that's why we've created this scholarship, is we want to make sure you have no obstacles in your way to pursue this. So I hope that background information was helpful in giving you information about why we started the scholarship. But now let's talk about the actual awards. So this scholarship has been designed to award students who are in their first year at UIC. So whether you're a brand new freshman or maybe a transfer student, and this is your first year at UIC, and also for students whose parents did not complete a bachelor's degree. So that's the definition that we're using for first generation college students, is it means neither of your parents attained a bachelor's degree. And one of the neat things about this scholarship is if you look at many other study abroad scholarships, they're what I like to call just-in-time money, meaning you apply for a scholarship, but then you have to apply to your study abroad program, and usually you have to put down some non-refundable deposits, and then you find out much later if you get the scholarship. And so sometimes students might apply for scholarships and not get them, and then they've already committed to a program. Well, this scholarship is different. Instead, you're going to apply for the scholarship now during your first year at UIC, and we'll notify you before the end of the spring semester if you get the scholarship, and then you'll have the remainder of your time here at UIC to use the scholarship. So it, in effect, makes it a planning scholarship. So you can rest assured that you have some solidified funding to help afford study abroad. And then this program is more than just a scholarship. So you see here, this third bullet explains that along with the scholarship, you're going to be a part of an esteemed group of scholars who also receive it, and you'll participate in a series of workshops where we'll be talking about some of the things I mentioned earlier that we know oftentimes students have questions about or are concerned about. So things like, how can you apply for additional funding because you are eligible for more than just this scholarship? How to integrate study abroad into your academic major so that way you don't delay your graduation. And then of course, how you can use study abroad to think about advancing your career. The scholarship amounts vary, so they're going to depend on the length of the program that you end up choosing. So you see here that for this first year, we actually have funding from the Chancellor to award 10 students with a scholarship. And the amounts are, if you pick a program that is less than 3 weeks, you will get $1,600. If you go on a program that's between 3 to 6 weeks, you'll get $2,100. And if you choose a program that's a semester or longer, then the amount would be $2,600. Okay, so in terms of who's eligible to apply, we're looking for students who are first generation college students. So again, meaning your parents did not go to college and who have demonstrated financial need. We need you to be a degree seeking UIC student, an undergrad, and in your first or second semester at UIC. So again, this is not for sophomores, juniors, or seniors. Unfortunately, we're only looking at freshmen or first time transfer students. You will need to have completed at least 12 UIC credits by the end of this semester, so this spring semester. We also need students to have either submitted the FAFSA for this year or the alternative application for Illinois financial aid. And so if you have any questions about this, you can reach out to us or the financial aid office and we can help make sure you've submitted it. If you haven't submitted it yet, that's okay. There's still time to submit for this year, but we do need to make sure this is on file. Next, we just ask that students be in good academic standing with the university and have no outstanding sanctions. So hopefully you guys haven't gotten in trouble and you're doing well in classes. And then lastly, we'll talk about this a little bit later. This scholarship can only be applied to our faculty directed programs or our exchange programs. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means a little bit later on. Okay, in terms of our application process, hopefully you are familiar with SNAP. This is basically the university's online database where all scholarships are stored. You can Google UIC SNAP and very easily find it. And I included a screenshot here so you see what it will look like. And you just need to search. Honestly, you could just type in FirstGen and it should come up, but this is the name of the scholarship. The application is an online application. It's going to ask you for a few key pieces of information, which I've called out here. So you'll be asked to provide some basic information about how you currently pay for school, whether that's through using loans and grants or scholarships or a combination. We just would love a little information about that. And then anything else that might be important to share about your financial situation. Now, I know, for instance, that with COVID, this past year has been challenging. So for instance, if your parents were helping support you, but then for whatever reason, that situation has changed, these would be key things for us to know because we want to make sure these scholarships are going to the students who could benefit the most from them. Next, we need you to provide information about activities, jobs, volunteering, and any honors and awards. And I know a lot of you might be freshmen and maybe haven't gotten as involved at UIC as you hope to. That's no problem. You could share things, for instance, if you volunteer on the weekends, maybe volunteer with your church, or maybe you hold a job right now, a part-time job is okay to talk about. Or if you're a freshman, we also encourage you to share any leadership activities or clubs you were a part of in high school, just to show us kind of what your interests and passions are. The main part of the application is 2 essay questions, which we're going to review in a second. And you have the option to either respond to those questions via written format of 500 to 1,000 words each, or we're making the opportunity available where you could do a creative video, upload it to YouTube and Vimeo and share that link. So if you're more of a person who feels comfortable expressing yourself in writing, that's an option. Or if you're more creative and want to talk to us via video, we also invite that. So the scholarship is available right now in SNAP, so you could start your application today if you wanted. And the deadline, this is very important, is April 15th. So make sure that you get your application in by the 15th. I'm going to pause because I saw a chat question pop up. So yes, this current cycle is only for current first-time UIC students, so current freshmen or transfer students. We do hope that this will be a yearly scholarship. So if you are not yet a UIC student, but you will be next year, do keep an eye out during your fall semester for an announcement about the next cycle. All right, we're gonna move on. So I wanted to show you what our essay questions are so you can start thinking about your responses. And I have a few tips we can talk through. So I'll read the first question. In what ways do you anticipate this program will challenge you? As a first generation college student, what strengths do you have that have helped you achieve your goals so far? And how do you envision these strengths might help you be successful while studying abroad? Please be specific in addressing any challenges you have overcome and the skills you used to do so. So again, this first question really gets at the idea of first generation strength I opened our presentation with. Again, as first generation students, we all have had our own unique challenges we've had to overcome to get to the point of coming to college. And that's all we want you to take some time to talk about. And so some tips are, sometimes students ask me, well, I don't want to sound, woe is me, and, here are all the hard things I've had to overcome. But there's a great way you can approach talking about this, and that's by turning adversity into a positive attribute, So the fact that I had to hold a part-time job because my family didn't make a lot of money to help me through college, that can sound sad when I just kind of say it like that. But actually, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to hold a part-time job through college because it showed me the strengths I do have in terms of being able to work with a team, leadership skills, and these are all things that help me further myself in my studies, right? So we start to talk about the positive aspects that come from overcoming challenges. Don't be afraid to call attention to what makes you and your story unique. I mentioned that we want to see more diverse students studying abroad. So if you have other things that you feel make you a diverse candidate, call those out because the reviewers care about that and want to see, again, students like yourselves going abroad. Focus on transferable skills. So transferable skills are these skills that can be effective across fields and in different settings. So things like communication, leadership, being able to work well with others from diverse backgrounds. These are things that are not relegated to a field of study, but again, would be beneficial across the board, and especially if you think about traveling abroad. And the last pointer I have for this question mentions avoiding general statements. I hear a lot when I'm doing job interviews, for instance, with people saying I'm detail oriented or I'm hardworking. Well, that's great, but it doesn't really tell me a lot. So go a little bit further and explain using examples. And so one method that's commonly used for questions like this is called the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. So basically, what the STAR method asks you to do is think about a time where you exhibited leadership skills. Describe the situation and what you had to do. What action did you take and what was the result? So I think if you remember that as you're writing your essays, it'll help you be as specific as possible. All right, I'm gonna jump to the second question. I see the chat going off. I'll get to that in 1 second. So the second question is, why do you think studying abroad will be beneficial for your personal, professional, and academic goals? How do you envision your study abroad program contributing to your academic program at UIC and your anticipated career afterward? So again, study abroad is meant to be an academic endeavor. It's supposed to complement your studies at UIC. So we really want to award this to students who are being strategic in their reason to study abroad and who have an understanding about how this will help further their goals. And so some pointers here are, in this essay, you could talk about what you're currently studying and why. So if you're studying engineering, for example, why did you select that major? What about engineering are you passionate about, and what do you hope to do? Encourage you to do some preliminary research on our website. So you don't need to know at this time what study abroad program you want to go on, but I think it could be helpful to start to explore and see what programs are out there and make a list maybe of some programs you're interested in. That way it'll help you as you write this essay. And then we also have a really great page linked here, and I'll be sending this presentation out so you'll have access to it. But this page talks about some of the personal, professional, and academic benefits of studying abroad. So if I were you, before I sit down to write this essay, I would review that, and then it would help you get thinking about some of the benefits that would be specific for you and your career goals. Again, make clear and specific connections between how studying abroad will help you in each of these areas, and make sure to discuss all three aspects. So personally, we think about things, when we travel abroad on our own, we become more independent, more confident. Professionally, as I mentioned, only 1 out of 10 students studies abroad, so this can help set you apart, and it can give you different skills such as leadership, communication skills, working with others from diverse backgrounds. And academically, no matter your field of study, I'm sure an international lens and experience can be beneficial. So spending some time thinking about how that would be beneficial would be helpful. And then lastly, I read so many scholarship essays about students who want to study abroad, and invariably I see a lot of, I've always wanted to travel and see new places, or interacting with people from other cultures will give me new insights. And those are great. I'm not saying that those are bad statements, but they're very generic, and we want you to go further. So the aim with this second essay is to make a clear connection between how studying abroad will help you be successful later on. All right, I'm gonna pause there because I saw the chat popping up. Okay, we have a question about someone's mother receiving a college education not in America. So if your mother did receive a college degree even from a school outside of America, then unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible for this particular scholarship. But I'm going to invite you to stay on because I am going to talk about some other scholarships that you probably would be eligible for. So feel free to stay here. And then if you're undecided but have an idea of what you like to study, no problem. You don't have to have declared a major yet. So if I were you and trying to answer number 2, I would think about at least the broader topics that you're interested. So hopefully you know by now, maybe if you're interested in the sciences or the humanities or kind of a broader theme, I think it would be totally fine for you to unpack that. Or another approach, this definitely was the case for me, is sometimes studying abroad can help clarify our interests and our goals. So again, I mentioned in high school, I was thinking I wanted to study the science, some subject in the sciences, but I wasn't sure. And then I went abroad, and it just showed me how passionate I am about other cultures and learning languages. And so that influenced and helped shape my decision to study French and international affairs at college. So if that resonates with you, then you could write your essay in a way that explains how you're going to use your study abroad experience to help you decide what it is you want to do later on. Okay, good questions. Feel free to keep them coming. I'll move on through our presentation. Okay, so I mentioned at the start that this scholarship is only for what we call our faculty-directed programs or our exchange programs. So I want to provide a brief overview of each of these. So faculty-directed programs are short-term programs that right now they occur during the summer or spring break. So if they're summer program, they're probably anywhere between about 2 to 5 weeks long, and then spring break, of course, would be a week. And these programs are led by UIC faculty members, and you'd be traveling with a cohort of UIC students. So you see this picture here is actually a faculty member, Dr. Gwyneth Milbrath from our College of Nursing, and she takes students every summer to the island nations of St. Kitts and Nevis to look at disaster preparedness and how medical professionals respond to natural disaster emergencies affecting these Caribbean island nations. So that's just an example that you would be traveling with a group of UIC students and a UIC faculty member. And I think this is a great model for first generation college students, especially if you haven't done a lot of international travel on yourself, because it's really nice to be able to plug into a program that's fully planned for you, and you'll have the benefit of having a dedicated faculty member with you for any questions or needs you have. So on these programs, you earn UIC credit. So typically 1 or 2 UIC courses are offered. So it makes it very easy to understand what credit you're receiving. And then excitingly enough, you all are the first group to hear this. I am sharing the destinations that we're planning for next academic year. And so far we have faculty proposing programs to Brazil, Costa Rica, Ecuador, France, India, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Mexico, the Netherlands, Spain, St. Kitts and Nevis, Puerto Rico, and the UK. So as you can see, a lot of good destinations. And this is a model, a program that we want to grow over the next few years. So I think you'll start to see more destinations proposed in the following years. Okay, the next type of program you can use the scholarship on are what we call exchange programs. And I think this is more the traditional idea of study abroad that many people have. And so this is where UIC has agreements with universities around the world. And we send a student to their university, and in return, they send a student to UIC. And these programs are more long-term, so they would be for a semester or a whole academic year. And I like to say to students that these programs are highly immersive and more for students who are comfortable with maybe being a bit more independent. Because with the faculty-directed programs, you're traveling with the group. But on an exchange program, you're basically going over by yourself, although there may be one or two other UIC students who go on the program too. And you would, in effect, be an international student for your semester. So you'd be taking classes with local students. You would have some support because there would be an international office at the university you go to, just like there is at UIC. So they'd be there for you to go to with any questions or support you need. But by and large, you'd be living life as a local student on your own. One of the neat things about this program model is that you pay your same UIC tuition and fees. So it's very easy to know what your cost would be. It would just be what it is to pay for a semester at UIC. But in addition, you would have living expenses, so your housing, of course, and personal spending money. And our advisors can help you with a budget so that way you have an idea of what you might be expected to pay on these programs. In terms of the credit for exchange programs, there is a process called the course equivalency process that our advisors will help you with. And all this means is that you would look at the host university's course catalog, identify the courses you're interested in taking, and then we work with your academic advisor here at UIC to figure out what those equivalent courses are at UIC for which you can earn credit. But the bottom line to know here is that you will be earning UIC credit on these programs as well. And then finally, I listed out the countries where we currently have active exchange agreements. So you could go to Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Japan, Mexico, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Taiwan, and the United Kingdom. So a good spread of countries. I'm hoping by now you see some destinations that you'd be interested to travel to. All right, so although we're here to talk about this exciting new scholarship, the good news is that students can stack scholarships, and there are many other funding opportunities out there for students who are first gen like yourselves, but also scholarships for students who aren't first gen. So again, for that student who asked the question, many of these scholarships you might be eligible for. So first, our office has other scholarships that we maintain. So you can go on our website and you can take a look at some of the other scholarships we offer. In addition to our office, though, there are many departments on campus who have funding available for students to use to study abroad. One example I like to call out is the Honors College. So if any of you are honor students, they also have some funding available to you. But it never hurts to ask. So if you're a student in a certain major, ask your advisor if they're familiar with any funding that you might be eligible for. Next, I haven't talked about our other type of program, which we call partnership programs, because the First Gen Scholarship isn't applicable to it. But if you did want to go in a partnership program, we work with many partners or organizations who have their own scholarships and discounts for UIC students. So again, you can come to our office and we can talk to you about those programs and opportunities. Then past our own university scholarships, there are many national scholarships for study abroad out there. And our office helps advise students and helps you on your application if you want to go after one of these scholarships. There are two extremely important scholarships that I think UIC students are very competitive for that I really want you to pay attention to. So first, if you receive a Pell Grant, then you absolutely should come talk to us about this wonderful scholarship called the Gilman Scholarship. And the Gilman Scholarship is only for students who receive a Pell Grant. You have to pick a program that goes to a country for at least 21 days. So we need a program that's at least 3 weeks long. And their award amounts are up to $5,000. So it can be a really, really great scholarship to help cover a lot of your study abroad costs. And so we've had a lot of success with coaching UIC students for this scholarship. So again, if you receive a Pell Grant, please come talk to us about this scholarship. Gilman also recently launched a second scholarship called the Gilman McCain Scholarship. And this is for students who are children of active duty military service members. So if one of your parents does currently serve in the military, you could also qualify for this scholarship. And we'd love to work with you on that. And so past scholarships, I think it's also important for you to be aware that you can use financial aid, so federal financial aid, such as loans and grants you receive, to study abroad. We have a very good relationship with the financial aid office at UIC, and so we're able to connect you with an advisor over there who can pull up your financial aid profile and talk to you about funding that you might have available to use as well. So again, our advisors are here to help connect you to relevant scholarships. I just want you to leave today's presentation knowing that in addition to the FirstGen Flame Scholarship, you can and should apply for other scholarships, and we're here to help you with that. All right, well, I hope I've piqued your interest and gotten you excited to consider looking into studying abroad. So your next steps, if you're eligible for the FirstGen Flame Scholarship, then again, please make sure you find it in SNAP and apply by April 15th. Then the next thing we advise all students to do is attend our first step presentation. This is a required presentation for anyone who would like to study abroad. It's about 26 minutes long, and we have a recording you can watch on our website, or if you prefer, you can attend a live session through Zoom right now with one of our advisors. Next, we recommend all students always talk with their academic advisor about study abroad. So even if you're not sure at this moment, it can still be helpful to mention that you're considering it, because then your advisor can tell you two important things. First, they can tell you what term would be the best term for you to consider studying abroad, so that way you don't delay your graduation. And then secondly, they can help identify courses you might want to save for your study abroad semester. So for instance, a lot of students take their electives early on in their academic careers. But actually, if you save some of your elective credits, then you're going to have more choices available to you in terms of a study abroad program. So talking with your advisor, they can help you be strategic about planning for your term abroad. Next, we recommend that you visit our website, and you see it's linked here. It's just studyabroad.uic.edu, and you get to do the fun part. I mean, we have over 200 programs around the world, so I think it's always fun to get on there and see where you could go. You can read about the courses you could take, the excursions that are included, and start compiling your short list for programs you're interested in. And then of course, we have a whole funding section of the website, which has links to some of those scholarship opportunities I mentioned. And then lastly, our team of advisors are always available to meet with you. We have regional advising loads, meaning we have advisors who advise for programs in Spain versus France and so forth. So it really just depends on where you're thinking of where you want to go, who you'll meet with. But all of that information is available on our website, or if you have questions, you can always email this sao@uic.edu email, and we'll connect you to the right person. If you use iAdvise, we are in iAdvise, so you can just search study abroad, and then you can read about each of our advisors and make an appointment with them as well through iAdvise. All right, well, that's what I had prepared for you all today. I hope it was informative and got you excited, but I'm gonna stop here now and see if anyone has questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or put them in the chat.
I had a question about the Gilman scholarship. Just
Excellent.
if you're like how where is it listed, or like when should you apply for those if you're like planning like ahead for terms, you know,
Yeah, really good question. So the deadline, Gilman has two main deadlines each year, one in October and then one in early March. And so let's just use summer as an example. So if you are interested in applying for Gilman for summer 2022 study abroad, then the first opportunity you could apply would be in the October deadline. And I actually would recommend that, because if, let's say you apply in October and you don't get Gilman, then you have a second shot in March to apply again. So it kind of gives you an extra chance. So yeah, October and March, and all information about Gilman is available on the funding section of our website.
Okay.
And it's worth pointing out about Gilman that each semester we also do workshops just like this about the Gilman Scholarship. So you can look out for an invitation to those. We work with financial aid every semester to send out an email to all Pell eligible students, inviting them to the workshop. And we do a writing workshop as well, where we help you get started with your essays.
Okay. And then if I've already talked to my advisor, and spring next year is the best like option for me. So like I should start like planning right now, and like most like those scholarships are still open, right? Like I'm just yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're thinking spring 2022, then yes, right now is definitely the time you should be interacting with our advisors and looking for scholarships. The Gilman scholarship deadline, the March one did just pass, so you've missed that. We can jump online though and look if you'd be eligible for spring for the October one. I'm not sure off the top of my mind, but we could check. But if not Gilman, there are other scholarships.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Good questions. What else? You can ask anything, whether it's about this scholarship or study abroad in general. Happy to take any questions. Maybe by thumbs up, is anyone thinking of applying for the scholarship? Have I encouraged you? Great, that's what I love to see. You can't get it if you don't apply, right? So might as well see. All right, well, it looks like there might not be questions, which is fine. I know it's a lot of information and you might need some time to think about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop my email address, my direct email address in the chat. I'm happy to meet individually with students, or even if you have a quick question you think of and you wanna shoot me an email, no problem. So I'll put that in there. And I'll hang on a few more minutes, but you're welcome to leave if you need to go. It was great seeing so many of you here. And again, April 15th, get your applications in. We'd love to see you join our cohort. Thanks, everyone.
Can I just ask like another like
Yeah,
broad
sure.
question? I know this is probably on the website or that it is, but like, can you talk more about like the like longer, like I didn't know that there was whole year like
Yeah.
exchange ones. Could you just talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we have programs that span the whole academic year, meaning August through May, or even calendar year, which would be January through December. Most of these programs tend to be the exchange model I mentioned, or the partnership model. So I'll just quickly explain what partnership is. So we talked about faculty directed exchange. Our third type is partnership. And these are programs where we partner with third-party organizations who own study centers around the world, and they welcome American college students to those centers. And so these programs also tend to have more longer term options. So again, academic year or calendar year. And so, yeah, you basically would have the opportunity to study abroad for a semester or longer. And here, the key consideration would really be, we want to work with you and your advisor to make sure we're being thoughtful about the courses you pick, because to go abroad for a whole year, of course, we wouldn't want to delay your graduation, but depending on your major, it could be doable. I will say that if you are a STEM major, like a science, technology, engineering, math, that could be a little bit complicated to go for a whole year, just because it's a little bit more difficult to find a full semester's worth of just STEM classes, but it's not impossible. But it just would mean early planning would be necessary. If you're more of a social sciences, humanities major, then it's probably going to be a little bit easier. But again, just come ask if you're unsure, and we can help connect you. Did you have any specific questions about the longer term programs, or was that helpful, Maddie?
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, anything else? Oh, email. Here, I'll put it in again. Sorry, I sent it to the waiting room. Here we go. All right, well, I'll go ahead and conclude the meeting. Again, I've recorded this. We'll send the presentation out so you can reference it later. And you have my email address now. But thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope to see your applications. Have a good afternoon.